publisher's introduction to the book The Secret History of the Jesuits by Edmund Paris. There is no other person more qualified to introduce Edmund Paris' book, The Secret History of the Jesuits, than Dr. Alberto Rivera, a former Jesuit priest under the extreme oath and induction, who was trained in the Vatican and briefed on the history of the Jesuits. This information is factual and fully documented, and it should be read by every Bible-believing Christian in the United States and Canada. The Bible says, quote, "My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge," unquote. Hosea chapter 4, verse 6. Dr. Rivera's introduction. The most dangerous of men are those who appear very religious, especially when they are organized and in a position of authority. They have the deepest respect of the people who are ignorant of their ungodly push for power behind the scenes. These religious men who pretend to love God will resort to murder, incite revolution and wars if necessary to help their cause. They are crafty, intelligent, smooth, religious politicians who live in a shadowy world of secrets, intrigue, and phony holiness. This pattern, seen in the secret history of the Jesuits, spiritually speaking, can be seen in the scribes, Pharisees, and Sadducees at the time of Jesus Christ. This same evil spirit directed by the Roman emperors to issue the 10 murderous decrees to persecute the early Christian church. The, quote, early fathers, unquote, observed most of the ancient Babylonian system plus Jewish theology and Greek philosophy. They all perverted most of the teachings of Christ and his apostles. They paved the way for the Roman Catholic machine that was to come into existence. Piously, they attacked, perverted, added to, and took away from the Bible. This religious antichrist spirit working through them is seen again when Ignatius de Loyola created the Jesuits to secretly accomplish two major goals for the Roman Catholic institution. 1, universal political power, and 2, a universal church in fulfillment of the prophecies of Revelation chapters 6, 13, 17, and 18. By the time Ignatius de Loyola arrived on the scene, the Protestant Reformation had seriously damaged the Roman Catholic system. Ignatius de Loyola came to the conclusion that the only way his, quote, church, unquote, could survive was by enforcing the canons and doctrines on the temporal power of the Pope and the Roman Catholic institution. Not by just destroying the physical life of the people alone, as the Dominican priests were doing through the Inquisition, but by infiltration and penetration into every sector of life. Protestantism must be conquered and used for the benefit of the popes. That was Ignatius de Loyola's personal proposal, among others, to Pope Paul III. Jesuits immediately went to work, secretly infiltrating all the Protestant groups, including their families, places of work, hospitals, schools, colleges, etc. Today, the Jesuits have almost completed that mission. The Bible puts the power of a local church into the hands of a godly pastor. But the cunning Jesuits successfully managed over the years to remove that power into the hands of denomination headquarters and have now pushed all the Protestants denominations into the arms of the Vatican. This is exactly what Ignatius de Loyola set out to accomplish: a universal church and the end of Protestantism. As you read The Secret History of the Jesuits, you will see there is a parallel between the religious and political sectors. The author, Mr. Paris, reveals the penetration and infiltration of the Jesuits into the governments and nations of the world to manipulate the course of history by setting up dictatorships and weakening democracies such as the United States of America by paving the way for social, political, moral, military, educational, and religious anarchy.
Especially I work in dealing with the infiltration of churches and religious institutions as well as government. That cover a tremendous number of institutions.
And the purpose of that infiltration was what for?
Well, the purpose is what the Roman Catholic system has all the time as her own purpose, is to infiltrate, to penetrate all the areas of life where the Roman Catholic can have control and access for the coming world government.
Simply put, this country and this world benefit from your commitment to Jesuit principles, to being men.
As a graduate of another great Jesuit institution, Xavier University, I have great affection for the value and purpose of a Jesuit education.
What that means is, in preparation for that world government, the Roman Catholic institution, especially since the establishment of the Jesuit order in 1541, throughout these 500 years, they've been in preparation and through infiltration and penetration of every level of society in order to take over the world politically and religiously.
What a beautiful day the Lord has made. Holy Father, on behalf of Michelle and myself, welcome to the White House.
There are two doctrines that define very well these dangerous goal of the Roman Catholic institution. Two doctrines define this very well. One is called the doctrine of the apostolic succession, and that is dealing with the papacy. And the other is the doctrine, the temporal power, and that is dealing with world government. Of course, both, because you can see that even the Pope and his own individual office, he meet those requirements. He is not only the head of his church, as he called himself, John Paul II, the present Pope, is that he is the pastor of his church. He is not only that, but he is the head of his state.
It is a sign, perhaps, of how far we have come in this country that today's news of formal recognition between the governments of the United States and the Vatican did not create a furor. Once upon a time, it would have. Once upon a time, and not all that long ago, it did.
From the time of President Washington, there was the first president to be utilized by the Jesuits. If you were not aware of that, President Washington already was initiated by the Jesuits to bring about the first communication with the Vatican ever known in this country. From there on, President Reagan, to all this time, President Reagan has come to fulfill the greatest moment in the history of this conspiracy, because no other president has come as close as President Reagan with the Vatican, and even not even John F. Kennedy. What that means is they have done to President Kennedy, to President Reagan, what they were not able to do even through a Roman Catholic president. And nevertheless, I will say this: the religious belief of President Kennedy is nothing more, nothing else than another expression of Catholicism. Perhaps I need to clear this. Roman Catholicism is not only the Roman Catholic system. Roman Catholicism is still, and it has been at work outside the Roman Catholic system. What that means, there are many daughters of the Roman Catholic system outside the Roman Catholic system. And as there are many daughters, these daughters have children, and of course President Reagan fit within that picture. His relationship with the Vatican today brought about several things. One of them is the diplomatic relationship with the Vatican. Second, the preparation for the signature of a concordat between the Vatican and the United States. And if you want to know, this never took place overnight. President Reagan was prepared and is here for the task that is performing today as President of the United States by the Jesuits of Rome, and the time that he served as a star in a movie that was very well known and still being shown today, a very old movie about the football team of Notre Dame.
New Rockney.
That's correct. This is the time that the first contact was made by the Jesuits with Reagan.
We were on the way back from London on a jet plane, and there was a man dressed in a uniform like the Catholic priests wear, and he was conducting himself not like a priest you'd see in a movie, very friendly. He was a very sophisticated type man, and people could sense that. And I never thought I'd see him again, but in Baltimore at the airline station where the baggages come off, well, I turned around and there he was next to me, and I just turned to him and said, "Hello, friend. Are you a Jesuit?" And he says, "Yes," with a big smile. You see all of his teeth. And he was very happy with himself. I said, "Well, listen, I'm very interested in the Jesuits. I've read some about them. And what would you think about the Council of Trent and what was invented in the Council of Trent and the infiltration of the Jesuits into Protestantism and the use of the Jesuits through organizations like the Illuminati and the futurism theory, the secret rapture that they invented for the Protestants?" And I talked about a lot of those things, and he had a metamorphosis take place. His face became rigid, his smile went away, and he looked me right in the eyes and he said, "You know quite a bit, don't you?" Like he never expected it. And I told him that I was one of the Protestants that got away, and if he could realize that if somebody like me knew those things, just imagine some of the other of God's people that know those things and are willing to tell anybody about them. And it was an amazing situation how that man's face changed, and he thought he was like in one identity, but all of a sudden he realized that these dark secrets of theirs, they're being found out, and I'll never forget that.
Would you consider that Jesuitism to be an occult secret society?
It is an occult secret society from the point of view that the Jesuit order, what you know of the Jesuit order and what everybody knows of the Jesuit order is not the truly Jesuit order. What that means is even the Jesuits within the Jesuit order, they all are not knowing the secret society, the inner secret society that they are surrounded by.
Said, well, what are you guys exactly doing in here? What are you doing in there? And they said, well, we're here with the advance team from the Vatican, and we're here to train the U.S. Senate on what specifically the Pope's climate change agenda is about and educate them as to what we're trying to achieve. And that's when I said to them, I said, I read the Pope's climate change encyclical, and I noticed that the Pope mentions the Sabbath in the encyclical. And he talks about animals having a day of rest, and I'm putting two and two together, and it looks to me like the Pope wants to have a Sabbath rest for the land, a Sabbath rest for the environment. And it seems to me like the Pope wants to have a worldwide Sunday law put in place, and through this green Sabbath, I didn't say green Sabbath, but through this Sabbath rest for the land or for the environment, that the whole world would shut their businesses and factories and everything down one day a week, and thus you'd be able to lower greenhouse emissions. And he looked at me and he goes, that's exactly what this is about. And with that, they just turned on their heels and walked away. It seems to me like the Pope wants to have a worldwide Sunday law put in place, and through this green Sabbath,
all of us are quite aware of and deeply worried by the disturbing social and political situation of the world today.
I tell you what, when you learn the truth, it sobers you up. You take your faith seriously. You take Christ seriously. You take the Scriptures seriously. And you take history seriously. You take prophecy seriously.